Welcome to episode 11 of Crucible Boot Camp. I'm your host, King Koala, and today we're going to be watching Famousbirds play a Rumble match on Widow's Court. So let's just get right into it. Birds is playing a Blade Dancer on this map. As you can see, he was using Plan C and an IS Luna. Plan C is an interesting fusion rifle because it can do a lot of things that most fusion rifles can't. So off the bat, we see that Birds, he patiently waits for someone to even show up on his radar before making a move. He spawned in a really nice spot in apartments. In Rumble, this is one of the zones that you want to control and rotate through, especially if you're using a close combat weapon like Plan C. You don't really want to push out into the courtyard because you can get crossfired from pretty much anywhere. As you can see, he rotates around, he sees someone running away, which is good. He throws a preemptive skip grenade, also very nice, to prime his target. Now he's just running away. So he hopped past, pulls out his fusion, hops past, pulls out his fusion. Really nice movement. At no point was he attacking any of those players head on. So here, he kind of double melees. That would have been a perfect opportunity for him to just throw another skip grenade and to finish that kill off, as he could have broken it off the tower wall on the left. Because you can see he has a shotgun out, so if you have a fusion like Plan C and you know that the perk is going to be down, the hotspot perk, because it has a 10-second internal cooldown, pushing into shotgunners like this is really, really dangerous. Really, this is just him getting really greedy for a kill, instead of just completely disengaging. It would have been okay to just run away and get a better angle on a guy in tower. I talked to him before this, but he's switching to Puppeteer, so you're going to see him kind of melee in air instead of throwing grenades sometimes. So the kind of movement that he has on this map on Rumble really speaks to how comfortable he is using his fusion and knowing when he needs to use it at the right time, because he's not pushing out of church. He's waiting for someone to come through this choke point. And he pulled back into cover. It's really nice. This challenge is really, really long for a hand cannon. And he started the challenge out of cover, so it would have been better if he slid up to the little planter in the center of the courtyard and then challenged from behind it using it as a head glitch. Even then, you really have to hit 2 headshots at that range in order to get a kill, as opposed to the normal 1 with IS Luna. So really, you just have to be more cognizant of your engagement spaces. He's gonna pull. This is a really nice radar trap where he's gonna try to pull him around into the corner. He stays upright this whole time. Now he's crouched, basically giving him a free pull around the corner. Little things like he had a skip out, so you don't really need to have a double melee. It's also better, instead of double meleeing, especially if you're a Titan, to try to get a shot off with your primary first. Your Storm Fist does 158 damage, which means any body shot with a hand cannon is going to combine with your Storm Fist for a kill. As a hunter, you're always gonna do 122 with your melee, which means that you need a headshot. But it's still better if you try to get a headshot off and get a free kill, as opposed to if you try to double melee, and normally double melees end up being trades, unless you're jumping up and down as you're meleeing. So this is what I'm talking about when I say when you push into courtyard, you need to go around the edges. He pushed straight through the middle of courtyard. There's no cover for him, and so he's completely vulnerable to the person that is in the apartments. It would have been better for him... We'll pause it in a second. It would have been better for him if he actually... There's a lane behind this wall here on the left. You can run behind that to push apartments, and also by the time you get to this corner, you can normally see all the way down to see if anyone's actually in apartments. And you can challenge that lane with a hand cannon. It's a little bit shorter than that engagement from the planter to stairs, but it gives you a better chance to hop back into cover as opposed to when you're in the center of courtyard, where you can pretty much be crossfired anywhere. If you are going to push out into the courtyard like he is, you need to be sliding to the planter. Birds definitely doesn't slide nearly enough as he moves around the map. He's patient. The key to using a fusion is being very, very patient. If you're going to use it properly, it's more important that you use it in such a way that it catches people off guard and out of position, as opposed to a shotgun where you can close the gap you can't really be incredibly proactive about fusion rifles. Plancy's a little different if you utilize the swap perk, which makes it like an instant burst, which he doesn't do a ton, which is fine. It's still a pretty fast charging fusion. So again, he sees someone, he throws the priming grenade. Now it's going to track onto him, and even though he didn't get the full burst kill on his plan C, he wasn't vulnerable for very long in the interim because of the tracking on the grenade. It's a perfect example of how you should be using skip grenade. Just beginning every single fight right at your feet. Gets a nice face stab. Or backstab, I couldn't really tell. So that kind of kill with Plan C is a testament to being comfortable with both the engagement range of Plan C, which is longer than most fusion rifles, but also understanding that you need to be able to control the recoil on a fusion if you're going to use it properly. So we'll show that kill again. And just watch the reticle in the center as he charges it. You see that little jerk straight down? That's what you should be doing as your fusion rifle is firing. If you're going to get used to fusions, Plan C is a great one to start off with. It has really high base stats. The exotic perk will get you kills against shotgunners in shotgun range. You can use it as a slide shotgun if you swap during the slide and then fire. The only thing you're missing really is the fact that you don't get knee pads on it. Plan C is also... I hear rumors from some people that it has a built-in Icarus. Some people say it has built-in Battle Runner. I don't really know. I haven't used it enough to say definitively, but I have noticed that people that do use it mid-air, it tends to be rather accurate as opposed to most fusion rifles. You can see that it's doing 47 damage, so it can actually challenge a lot of supers pretty well. And it can shut down self-reses. So it's very versatile fusion. It has a lot of options on it too, with the perks that you use. I don't like this area that he's kind of trying to control here, just because, remember how I said the engagement range from planner is too long? Well, if a sniper shows up in Cathedral and shoots you on the steps, there's no real way for you to retaliate. So you don't really have an angle out into courtyard. You really only have angles on the corners and behind you, and you're mostly out of cover. So if anyone shows up, you're pretty much going to be dead. Little thing here, he does hug the wall. If you are going to push out in the open, do try to hug the wall. So again, not a ton of sliding. A lot of people just kind of walking into him. He gets pretty lucky killing that storm. Because I think 3 or 4 bolts hit him for 47, and then the other half of the clip hits the 24s. This is what I'm talking about. That range where he hits the 71 on the head when it's normally in the 80s. He uses his blade and then immediately gets shut down. That's okay. That's what Golden Gun's good for. He's not running blank, but in that case, it might have been better to jump. I don't know if I really would have challenged the machine gun, but he should be sliding here again, constantly sliding. Good push, good primer grenade. Reloading a little bit out of cover. That's okay, but I'd still rather see him reloading completely in cover and just wait. He gets pretty lucky most of the time that his opponents aren't immediately pulling out their shotgun at that kind of range. But again, the crouch does give him extra time. And that's that kill right there is a perfect example of why you use fusion rifles. Especially the power of pre-charging too, because if you basically get a free chance to get a kill, even if he doesn't pop off right in front when your burst goes off, you can always switch back to your primary. This is a slightly better push up onto this corner here. Obviously your back is still exposed, but if you jump over the wall, it's a little better to figure out what's going on. And that kill is basically one of the extreme ranges of Plan C. He gets a nice in-air kill, and you can see the bolts are pretty stacked in air. But here, he's aiming below his feet because he knows it's going to drag up and it's going to spread out at this distance. So you really, the only way you can kill at this distance is below them. And you see it just drags all the way up to about the neck area. And the guy just living in his scope. That's pretty much all she wrote. I don't think I took note of actually when he got a super though. Okay, so he gets a super at 248 and holds on to it. Okay, until 5. So he did hold on to his super like way too long. So my main critiques on birds is really when you get your super in Rumble, especially just use it, just run at someone and use it. Don't hold on to it. Those 3 minutes that he had with the kills, he probably would have had a second super and then the third one at the end. Remember that Rumble is about the time it takes between when you spawn and when you get a kill and keeping that time as low as possible. Obviously you want to stay alive, but due to the nature of Crossfire, you're not going to stay alive for very long. So use your super, use it often, even if it's just for 1 kill. The vast majority of your engagements are going to be 1v1s anyway, and most of the time, if you saved your super to shut down someone else's super, you still have to worry about 4 other supers after that, and you just can't deal with all of them. So just get the free kill or kills, and You know, if you get killed by a golden gun and, you know, you didn't have your Fists of Havoc up, that's fine. That's not a big deal. Maybe that guy gets 3 kills. Like, cool. But if you're already ahead and you already have your super, just use it to continue to snowball the lead, because you keep your time between engagements down. And it's not going to matter that this guy gets 3 kills when you're ahead of him by 5. Because, you know, you're going kill to kill in 10 seconds, whereas he's going kill to kill in 15. That's going to add up, and eventually, like these guys on the bottom, they're either getting farmed or they're just not getting in engagements very often. I mean, this guy had 1 kill and he has, you know, 2, maybe 3 kills. Or 2, maybe 3 kills at this point in the game. So, other than use your super more often, some good things that he did were he primed with his grenade a lot. And that's something that I haven't noticed very much, is that people aren't utilizing their grenades to prime very well. Skip is arguably one of the best grenades to use to prime, even with the nerf on it now. It's not as lethal, and it obviously doesn't pull you out of the fight for as long as normal, but it's still really solid. Other than that, and he also did really well on knowing his engagement ranges with Plan C. You saw 1 kill at an extreme range, and 1 burst that didn't do anything just because it was a pre-charge shot. But other than that, pretty much everything was within the power zone of Plan C and fusions in general, really. Something that Birds definitely should work on, though, is his ability to move around the map and keep track of cover. He did move in and out of, or he did move out of cover into open spaces often to move around the map, and he played very upright, and also mostly on the ground. So more aerial play would definitely be appreciated, especially because you're using a hand cannon. Jumping over doors, or through doors, and really sliding a lot more, just to move around. You don't have to move very far. You can move 1 or 2 slides, and that's it. You don't need to move after that, and then wait for your cooldown to come off, your sprint cooldown to come off, and then do it again. Sprint, slide, slide, sprint, slide, slide, to move around the map. That just keeps you off of radar. It gives you more opportunities for people to push into you and for you to get first shot off, because they're not necessarily going to be prepared for you. Keep in mind that when you see someone on radar, if you're crouched, they're not necessarily going to instantly know where you are, because you're blipping in and out of radar, whereas they're constant on radar. Keep in mind that if you are standing upright, what you see on radar is what they see as well. A lot of people forget that just because you see someone, if you, let's say you're on the radar and they're off to the right on B, they're going to know that you're off to the, to their left, pushing around heavy side, and it's going to be mutual information that's being shared. Whereas if you slid here, maybe you blip out and they think, oh, he was on heavy, but now he's around the corner and I don't need to worry about it anymore, when in fact you're sitting there slowly creeping up on him. So since Widow's Court is the Trials map this week, I'll go over a little bit of trial strategy for it this time, as well as kind of reiterate, I've covered it in past episodes, but reiterate the power zones on Rumble for Widow's Court. Because Widow's Court isn't a great map to rotate around because of how much you go out into the open, and there's a lot of crossfire that can happen. Really, you will only want to control 2 zones, and you can control either zone with a shotgun or a sniper or a fusion. And those zones are here, around B, and then basically this area here around apartments. If you're a sniper, you can actually extend the zone a little bit. If you're a sniper on B side, you could come all the way out here if you want. So why do we control zones on Rumble instead of rotating around the map? Well, if we control, let's start with apartments, controlling apartments. You notice that a lot of the spawns are out here or over here. Sometimes you spawn at castles, you spawn on a beach, fountain, trucks, rubble, cubby. You spawn around the edges, which means that if you're controlling apartments, and a lot of people just push to courtyard because that's the 50-50. If they're pushing into you, then you have a lot of cover to dip back inside, and anytime that someone pushes you, they have to push through choke points. This is a choke point here. This is a choke point. These are choke points. It's if you duck behind the wall, these are all choke points. So you're pushing into a shotgun. You don't have to do much work as far as closing the gap when people push into you on Rumble on this map if you're controlling apartments. And you can basically move back and forth between this top apartment and back on Walker. Doing so, if you're using a mid-range gun or a close mid-range gun like an auto rifle or a hand cannon, that gives you engagement ranges as people push into you. You want to engage in this zone here, mainly because they're out of cover when they push into here, and you have really good sight lines on them from these locations. I wouldn't, like I said, I wouldn't suggest going to stairs to do any challenges, just because your back isn't covered very well, and there's really your only escape is all the way back, and that's enough time for someone to push up from courtyard to kill you. So really just moving back and forth, on this particular zone will let you control a lot of traffic and almost always get first shot off unless someone's prepared for you. And if you're crouching or sliding around, it's going to be rare that people are prepared for you. Once you get that first shot off, really it's on you to finish the kill. Hopefully it's a headshot. Same thing with the sniper. You can actually use the sniper, except your engagement range is now extended. You can go on this wall and shoot all the way down by the car. From the top apartment, you can shoot into courtyard. You can actually shoot all the way across onto perch. And if you push out on shelf in the extended rotation, that gives you the ability to cover this sight line here. Lets you cover perch, and it actually lets you cover all the way out on beach. So you can cover these two sight lines really easily if you can push out all the way on shelf with a sniper rifle. If you want to push onto stairs with a sniper, you can cover church either side, but again, risky. You don't want to get flanked. If you're willing to take that risk, then go for it. Those are the sight lines you're covering. Otherwise, just avoid it. The other zone that you want to control is B. And B is a little bit longer of an area of control, but it has a lot more cover and a lot of ways to close the gap really easily. So again, shotgunning, really nice on B. You can prime someone with your primary if you're just on fountain from basically any location they're going to push into you. Any of these directions. And if you hop off the fountain, you're instantly covered because of all these walls. So it's really safe. It's pretty easy to play a very defensive shotgun or a fusion rifle if you're going to hold this zone. And basically, just like before, you move back and forth. Back and forth. And you cover anyone trying to push into you. Or spawning on the edges and pushing into you. So you notice there's a lot of space on the map you don't want to go to. If we're covering those two zones. Basically all of this area is bad. It's all bad. And all of this area here is good. So knowing this in this sort of a visualization, we can transition into how Trials plays. Because if these are the safe zones for controlling and getting off first shots and being able to dip back in the cover. This is also the way that you should be playing Trials. As you can see by the blue, that means these are traffic lanes. So you only want to move through these areas, but you have to be aware of where the enemy is if you are going to move through these areas, because there isn't a lot of cover and there isn't a great way to escape. So most of your engagement should be happening in the red zones. And if you're dying in the blue zones, that's because someone is in the red zone that you aren't accounting for. It's not like you shouldn't go to these areas, to courtyard, or you shouldn't go to beach, or you shouldn't go to the street, but you should know when the proper time is to use those to move around the map, and that's normally when no one is there. Street is a good example because it's the shortest distance for a flank on either side, but it's only going to be effective if no one is on shelf, or no one is on perch, or no one is outside church, or in back church. If no one is in these locations, let's say you're pushing this way, if no one's in these 3 locations, you can move through here. Maybe, let's say they're all in apartments. That means this push through top street is okay. Your most vulnerable point is rounding this corner here. And if you just slide, you can safely go that distance. And then you can hide behind this car here. Same thing for the other way. If everyone is sniping on Walker and around A stairs, that means it's okay to push down top street. And your most vulnerable point will be on the bottom of steps, because everyone can rotate back to you. If I am flanking on this map, going through top street, I generally don't go up these stairs because it's a head glitch on you as opposed to on them. So normally you can only see the head of the person up top and they can see your whole body. Instead, I normally wrap all the way around. There's a little dumpster here. You can head glitch on this wall and you can push into cover if you want to, or even jump on gazebo and you have really good sight lines on all the snipers that are on the other side. The 50-50s on this map are Walker to church, this one here. This is the 50-50 engagement. And street to street. So trucks in the back top street, sometimes all the way back here. All the way to back church, so anywhere on this location. And then when you're pushing heavy on left side, it's this line here. For the most part, this is going to be a flanking route. And it's not going to be a 50-50 because most people off spawn, they just immediately go to A. And they immediately go to church. Most of the left half of the map is ignored. Good teams will ignore this 50-50 altogether and just push down B. If that happens, then actually your best options for countering that are having someone here on the wall, maybe a head glitch out on beach, and someone in castle, preferably a shotgunner. So as they push in, you get free shots from the guy on the wall and you dip back into cover. As they push the guy over wall, the guys in castle and on beach can collapse. So even if you get if you become absolute on wall and you dip back into cover, your teammates can support you pretty easily. That's a great way to counter people that want to ignore the 50-50 and just hard push you around other ways of the map. Another way you could play the map is rotationally. So we can kind of divide this into into 3 zones. So you have top, middle, and then bottom. So you can rotate through either of these waves. and you can go this way, or this way, or this way. So as someone moves through the top of the map and you're on the bottom, you can rotate in the middle, or you can rotate away from them onto the other side. It really depends on what the enemy team is running and what you're running and how comfortable you are with with different engagement ranges. If you are going to play a flanker or disruptor on this map, I highly recommend that it isn't the shotgunner, actually, that it's a sniper, due to the fact that when you do finally get a true flank and you're able to get a free shot off, it's almost always going to be at medium to long range. So an example would be everybody's in A and your teammates are kind of hanging out in courtyard, maybe around bottom street. As a flanker, you have the long flank and the short flank. If you go the short flank again, you kind of want to come over here. But let's say you're near their initial. Just look at how long this range is in order to engage. I mean, this is sniping lanes at this point. Where you actually need to be in order to properly shotgun these people is close to here. Or here. And this is all out of cover. So pushing up to these zones and still expecting these people not to backpedal and continue to create the gap is pretty silly. So you need to have your sniper here, and they need to be able to pull back when they get found out. If you do go the long flank through B, when you end up here on car, this is a head glitch, nice head glitch, and then you can kind of utilize more cover to your advantage. Again, this is a really long sight line. This is not shotgunnable. So that's why you want your flanker to have a sniper. A 2-1 split where you have 2 flankers and then 1 distraction basically is also really good. You send one guy to the 50-50. He doesn't necessarily challenge, but he does play bait. So he'll stay there, stay on radar, maybe come in and out of cover, not to the point where he can potentially get picked off, but just to tell them, hey, I'm still here in courtyard. And you just send 2 people to flank from both directions. And then as the flank is happening, that turns the 50-50 into a flank. And so this becomes the front, they're fighting, and then that gives this guy free reign to move up and challenge. Because he's no longer being covered. This 2-1 split, where you have 2 flankers, it takes a lot of coordination. So you have to be patient, and you have to have the one person on their own can't die. Because if the one person on their own dies, the whole thing comes apart. Because you're pretty out of position here compared to if the person dies in courtyard, you have no way to secure this res. You're pretty much guaranteed to play a 2v3 for the rest of the round. I mean, that's pretty much it. I've talked about Widow's Court a lot lately and in the past. So thank you guys for watching. I'll be back on Thursday